You are Locked On Hawks POSTCAST, part of Locked On Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Hawks POSTCAST. I'm your host, Jarvis Davis, and I have my resident hoops expert, DeShaun Tate, with me as well. I want to just say thank you for making Locked On Hawks POSTCAST your first listen today. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast, and wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. And if you haven't liked or subscribed to our YouTube channel, Locked On Sports Atlanta is the place you need to be. So go ahead and do that if you haven't done so already. Locked On Hawks POSTCAST is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Hawks POSTCAST is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. It helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Coming up on tonight's show, yes, we are in the and one segment. How about this, guys? This is Dejounte Murray's team for now. And in who's next? Repite, por favor. But first, we got to talk about this A-plus performance that the Hawks gave the Los Angeles Clippers tonight. 110-93. They get the win on the road on the first half of a back-to-back. Like I mentioned earlier, the Los Angeles Lakers, they will be taking on Los Angeles Lakers a little bit later on this evening. So, yeah, make sure you be on the lookout for that. But, DeShaun, when you think about how the Hawks played tonight, I was just sitting back and watching this game, and I saw some things that I just really felt.
I'm gonna tell you what I saw, JD. I saw a team that was relentless on the defensive end, on the offensive end, super balanced, but not just balanced because they did well on both sides of the ball, not just balanced because they were above average, above mediocre on both sides of the ball, but more so because of the fact that they were great on both sides of the ball. And I love that it happened against this LA Clippers team even more. This being a team that I think most people with the consensus would agree is top 5 in terms of teams that can contend for an NBA championship, especially when you start factoring into a roster where 3 of the 4 players tonight are potentially going to wear gold jackets and be, inducted into the Hall of Fame at some point. Arguably the most talented roster in the NBA. But they set the tone early. They put the foot on the gas. They put the foot on their neck, and they didn't let up. And that's not typical Atlanta Hawks basketball. But that is the Atlanta Hawks basketball that we have been kind of wanting and asking and looking to see all season long. Honestly, even dating back into last season. There's going to be some people that's going to say some of this is overreaction, but I think it's reaction that is warranted because this is a team that has been putting in some work. Yeah. I don't know what it's going to look like in the next game. I know what I hope it looks like in the next game. But I'm going to enjoy this game. A-plus performance. You shooting about 50% from the field, about 50% from 3, and like 90% from the charity stripe. There really isn't a whole lot of things to argue. The bench came to play. They outscored, the Clippers bench 40 to 17. In fact, Deandre Hunter doing what he's supposed to do, okay, and outscored the entire Clippers bench himself, 20 points to 17. So there's some other elements. I think that they, obviously elite ball movement. They moved the ball around real well. But the effort, the energy, those were things that was mandatory, and they went out there and did it. I just hope they can keep doing it. But I'm enjoying this one.
No doubt about it. I think the effort piece is kind of what I want to focus in on, man, because when you think about getting 26 points off of turnovers, that's huge. That's huge, for a team like the Hawks, because we talked about inconsistency We talk about what they have to do on the defense side of the ball and playing defense. And like it was just moments where I was amazed tonight watching this team play on the defensive side of the ball. Like they were intentional, Tate. Like every time the Clippers tried to run that little screen and roll, like that,
Mhm.
the center, whether it was Bruno Fernando or Clint
Wasn't
Capella,
having it.
they was coming out there, and they was coming and trapping immediately,
Mhm.
And then if once they got the ball out of their hands, they was immediately getting back to that man. I was just like, and it happened every time. Like
Mhm.
every time that it just goes to show that you feel like Quinn Snyder implemented the system, implemented the game plan, and those guys executed time and time again. And like you mentioned, we aren't used to seeing this. That's why I say this game is probably the most excited I've been watching like all year, all
Mhm.
year. And I'm
Mhm.
not just saying that because they beat the fourth ranked team in the Western Conference, and like you mentioned, everybody looking at the Clippers like, okay, this is a team that can seriously contend. They got one of the
Mhm.
better head coaches as their head coach in Tyronn Lue. So, but like you have to give this team credit for what they did tonight, and I think that when you think about those different factors with everybody being out, Bufkin, Trey,
Mhm.
uh, Yeka,
Mhm.
uh, you think about all those guys being out at one particular time, and even Jalen Johnson being out at moments, and then just the type of game that he had, the game what he was able to bring to the table tonight. You just have to say, okay, you seeing some resiliency, and when you start to see that, you start to see guys not give up. You start to see guys not kind of throw in the towel and say, okay, because they have every reason to throw in the towel, especially when Trey Young went down.
No doubt.
So but you just got to give these guys credit, like you mentioned, an A+ performance on both sides of the ball. But I just gotta have to admit that, man, I was more impressed by what they did on the defensive side of the ball
No doubt.
tonight, and they did it consistently.
Well, and it started there. And anytime you're trying to win something special, it has to start there. I think it didn't help that the Los Angeles Clippers, while they are talented and have the skill set and of the talent roster and the depth and all of these different things, I don't think that it helped a whole lot that they are oftentimes a very undisciplined team. And give credit to the Atlanta Hawks because they exposed that.
Right.
That is credit to the Atlanta Hawks because they did not have to have that, that be something that they picked up on, that's awareness, and then capitalize on it. Because this also, we can't act like there's a reputation the Atlanta Hawks have of doing those type of things. Capitalize the way you're supposed to, putting a foot on the neck the way they're supposed to. We've been waiting for that kind of team in this town for quite some time. We
Right.
got it on tonight, even if it is just for one night. I think when you add into the fact that their approach to this game, their mentality was that of one that felt like they're expected to win this game. I love that just as much. So there's those different elements to it that I like. A lot of the stuff it's not even about what you did on offense or defense only. Yeah, we impressed by those things, but probably the most impressive thing, like I said, is just the consistency. We've been having talks all year long, me and you, or me and Tanitra, about you know, coming out slow starts in the first quarter and then trying to pick it up and make a run in the second, or doing well in the doing well in the first two quarters, but then here comes that third quarter rearing its ugly face again. But they put it together for all four quarters. Like they were not letting up. That is something that we don't see very often from this team. And I want to put a little bit of exclamation. I want to put a little bit more extra emphasis on that because when you start having those kind of conversations, those are things that you start talking about teams that are growing and wanting, not saying that they will right away and this and that, but wanting and efforting to turn a corner because they can go ahead and tank. When you don't have Bay, that's a starter. You got Deandre on restrictions. You got Onyeka, who's considerably a starter. Before he got hurt, he was a starter. You don't have Trey. Like, you don't have Buff. You got guys out. You could easily be tanking. You could easily be getting ready to mail it in and looking towards a rebound. But this just goes to show that they still trying to compete And I love any and everything, even if there's times that they do lose games where a team does want to compete. That's all I wanted to see, and we saw it.
And one thing I want to add, one little quick thing. When you talk about fast start, like how about Clint Capella tonight?
Oh yeah.
Dude ended up with 5 offensive rebounds in the first quarter. Like he was giving Zubac like all he could handle. I mean Zubac, excuse me. He was giving him all he could handle, and he ended up with 15 points and 13 rebounds. And when you think about like that aspect, because I've said that Clint Capella has kind of fallen off, and you kind of see him age. He's not as healthy as you would like him to be, and for him to have the game that he did tonight, just from the blocking, like defending the paint tonight. Like I mentioned, like the 26 points out of turnovers. They also had 48 points in the paint. 48 to the Clippers 30. Those are the type of things that say, hey, that rim protection. That's what it speaks to what Clint Capella was able to do. So you got to give him a quick shout out as well. Coming up next, we're going to tell you how this is Dejounte Murray's team for now. Also want to let you know that this episode of the Locked On Hawks Postcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Folks, LinkedIn isn't just another job board. It has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. And plus, LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. I'm a small business owner myself. I'm going to be looking for some employees. Guess where I'm going, guys? I'm going exactly to LinkedIn Jobs. It knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. So I need some help. So I'm going to LinkedIn because it is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions. Lord knows I ain't got time to do that. So they're going to make that process even easier and quicker. I'm telling you guys, you can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba, LOCKEDONNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. The Atlanta Hawks get the win on the road against the Los Angeles Clippers, 110-93. We got a chance to kind of talk about the A+ performance that the Hawks had, and I think that DeShaun, I know for you like how the consistency that they showed on the offensive side of the ball. For me, it was that defense that got the job done, and they started from first quarter on into the fourth quarter. But I think one guy that really stood out to me, it was Dejounte Murray. And I think that when you think about what he's been able to do against Western Conference team in this West Coast roadie, I feel like he is starting to really catch a groove. And you kind of feel like, hey, he's the guy, not just a substitute teacher, but he's the guy that's saying, hey, man, I'm the leader right now.
Yeah, and putting his foot down the way that he should. Sometimes I think we've seen many instances where he was just being really reserved, right? And just it kind and then again, a lot of this is just kind of the vibe and the feel, just like, all right, well, Trey is out or Trey is down. I'm gonna come in and what do you call it in football, Jarvis, when the quarterback just an extension of the coach and just try not to do anything wrong. Maybe don't necessarily the game manager. Okay,
Right.
Not that game managers are bad, because I actually think they're good. And anyway, a whole different conversation. But I feel like he's taking a step beyond just trying to manage a game now. Like he's really treating the situation like, which I think is good, where it's bringing competition for number 11. And given some things for front offices to think about, particularly the one here. And I think that's nothing but good. Those are good problems to have. because not everybody has that problem. When your best player, your star player, your most marketable player goes out, everybody doesn't have a number 5 to bring in who is going to, make it clear that things don't go off the rails or that you don't even skip a beat. And in some cases, even take it up another level, because I don't think it's a surprise that this team not necessarily looks better, not necessarily looks worse, but just looks different when it's him that is leading the way. And we've been talking for I don't know how long about trying to find someone in position with this particular team. At least I know I have, in terms of who is the leader. Who's the emotional leader? Who's the vocal leader? Who's the team? Who's the player that's gonna put the team on his back and so forth? Especially when you don't have the Trey, and he's not even the emotional and vocal leader in many cases. But that guy is Dejounte Murray, but he hasn't always brought that out. I'm starting to see that he's becoming more and more comfortable in that role. And I love what I'm seeing, and I just hope that it's something that can continue when Trey gets back. I'm slowly starting to think that it is.
And when you think about what shooting 45% for three, in these last 4 games against the West Conference teams, also shooting 49% from the field, man, that's execution right there. And also, I think one of the things that kind of scared me a little bit once Trey went out, because I really feel like DeJounte really didn't have a good chemistry with a guy like Clint. I think he had a little bit more, chemistry with Bruno Fernando, obviously, because a lot of times when Trey and DeJounte aren't on the floor together, more than likely DeJounte is running with the backup center, and with Onyeka being out for this period of time, it's been Bruno Fernando, and you kind of see the little synergy that DeJounte has built with Bruno. But I think tonight you saw it where he was able to find guys like Clint. He's able to find guys like Jalen Johnson on that little alley-oop pass to him. And of course, Jalen is going to finish that bad boy. You get it in high enough. So I think so. You start to see the double-digit assists. And that's what we're used to seeing from Trey. Because I don't know about you, but that first game that Trey was out, like I was kind of shocked because we're so used to seeing the vision, seeing the dimes, and getting his teammates involved instantly, like as soon as the game gets going. But DeJounte seemed like he was more so interested in getting himself going and going a little one-on-one and started getting his mid-range going. But I saw something different tonight. I saw him getting his teammates involved. That was the priority. And when they were able to kick it out to him, he was able to hit those threes. I talked about the YOLO threes that he made against Utah. He had a couple of them I think it was in the third quarter. And when he went off for like 9 points. In the third quarter, he was just jacking those bad boys up, and they were just falling, man. So I think his confidence is up with the 3-point percentage. And I think that, this is like you said, this is something that's going to be very interesting to see going down the stretch, man, because if he can continue to play like this, man, the front office got some real decisions to make, because other teams are going to be watching. Because we know that, hey, more than likely they're going to keep Trey, but if teams start looking at DeJounte, I promise you that value is going to be much more than what it was coming down into the trade land. Another thing I want to ask you about, as far as you talk about that leadership piece, and I think that Deandre Hunter said something really interesting at the end of the game, because DeJounte Murray was like right there. Like, just DeAndre had his arm around him while he was doing the post-game interview, and he was talking about how DeJounte Murray has shown that leadership that they've been missing. And that stood out to me, because you even mentioned when you talk about Trey, it's like he's not necessarily going to be that vocal guy or or the emotional guy to be the leader and be there in those moments when his team needs him. But DeJounte has been that, and his teammates are already stating that, saying, "Hey, man, this guy showed that leadership." Like, when you have a guy like Deandre Hunter, we've been trying to figure out what his role is going to be ever since he walked through that door at State Farm Arena.
No
And
doubt.
I think this role is something that he's comfortable in, and I feel like he's getting comfortable with listening to a guy like Dejounte Murray.
I'm glad you say that because I think it's good that both of these guys can apply the pressure that they do. With DJ being able to apply the pressure maybe a little bit to Trey, or maybe it's just not even about on Trey, but just on the front office a little bit. Give them something to think about a little bit. Like, we haven't said that very much in this town. I mean, you're from here, Jarvis. I'm not. We're going on almost 20 years that I've been here. I can't remember a time that we even had conversations where one player is putting so much pressure on the other player to play well or just to whatever, what have you, that the front office got to make good decisions because you get to keep one of them because there's still another one to be able to keep.
If it's an easy decision, that means somebody ain't do something right.
Somebody didn't do something right.
Wrong.
And that's my point. So with that being said, and Trey puts a lot of good pressure on you because guess what? Mama ain't giving birth to Trey Youngs every day. You know what I'm saying? So like those are little things you got to think about in situations where Atlanta is blessed. They just got to figure out how they'll be able to put it together. But we're talking about Dejounte Murray. Just looking at, speaking of Trey, some of the time that he's been, some of the time that Trey has been out, what DJ has done in the last 10 games without Trey Young, 26 points per game for DJ, 38% from 3, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, and 1 steal. On tonight, ironically enough, 21 points, 10 assists, double digits assists again, 50% shooting from the field and 50% shooting from 3. Like, those are not easy feats. Those are not things that's just you snap your fingers and they happen. That's work and time in the gym. That's commitment. That's getting to know your teammates. That's knowing all the little spots as a point guard, the strengths of this guy, the weaknesses of that guy, being the traffic director, telling these guys over here when to stop and telling these guys over here when to go. And the same thing vice versa. So in a very small sample size of time, by the way, in a very small window, to get to learning these systems, by the way, new coaches, new GMs, new this, new that, it's a lot of new nuances for this team. And that's why I always try to, preface things by first giving things enough time to allow them to grow, which I know is really tough in a microwave society.
Yeah, I think, and that's why I feel like the decision that you're gonna have to make is going to be a big one.
Mhm.
And I just want to enjoy what's going on right now because we know that the Hawks needed this win tonight, and it was the way they played tonight. I'm sure that we talked about it before we even started this postcast. Is that I was surprised, and I know you were surprised as well. So what we don't want to be surprised about if the Hawks are able to have a repeat performance because we know they're going into the second half of a back-to-back. This episode of the Locked On Hawks postcast is also brought to you by Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, your size, and your budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. You know me, I'm a big guy. So, certain clothes I'm not rocking with. Certain clothes I am rocking with. And guess what? Regardless of what clothes I'm putting on, it has to be clean. It has to be fresh because I like to look good. You look good, you play good. You play good, you get paid good. That's what it's all about, baby. Because all I do is just give my stylist my size, my style, and my budget preferences, and I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. All the subscription that you have to pay for, you don't have to worry about that. You just do it when you want it and how you want it. And they send 5 just for me pieces plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's all up to you. I'm talking about, guys. What kind of deal is that? Oh my God. All you got to do is just give them your size, style, and your budget preferences. And then you just pick what you want. And if you don't like it, you send it right back. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. I don't like to shop. I like to save that time and effort. Plus, I get outfits that make me look good and feel good because you know what the results of that are. you get paid good. So style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/locked-on. That's stitchfix.com/locked-on. stitchfix.com/locked-on. Go ahead and get you a stylist so you can look good and even feel much better. The Atlanta Hawks will be going for back-to-back wins on the road out in LA at Crypto Arena. They get the win against the Clippers, 110-93. And DeShaun, when you think about the way they played tonight, you gave them an A+ performance.
No
We
doubt.
talked about how Dejounte Murray is making this team look like it's his, at least for the moment, right? We talk about the microwave society that we live in. At least for right now, this team is playing the way Dejounte Murray wants to play. And I think that when you're talking about getting 26 points off of turnovers and dominating the paint, and Clint Capella looking like the old Clint Capella, the old young Clint Capella that we're used to, the double-double machine, the offensive rebounding king in the NBA. We saw that. So, with all that being said, like, what do you think are some of the keys to the game as they get ready to take on the Lakers a little bit later on tonight?
I don't know what this team had for breakfast this morning, right? I know how they do it out there in California. They listen, they doing, I do it a little bit different. But I know they like their avocado toast and all the green smoothies and all that kind of stuff out there on the West Coast. So whatever that they were indulging into, I need you to what do you say? Wash, rinse, repeat. I need you to do the exact same thing that you did on today.
Por favor.
Because it is doable. When it came down to some of tonight was about the little things. I think it's going to take something similar for the Lakers. When it came to second chance points, when it came to hustle points, getting on the ground after loose balls, not being so predictable all the time. I don't think they could afford to be predictable. They forced the defense to work a little bit. Shots were going in, of course, but they were calculated risk for the ones that were risky. On top of the fact that it was great, just outstanding shot selection. It was almost like they did everything right. Like, that's why I gave them the A+. I don't know if you can duplicate or replicate something like that.
Right.
But my question coming into this game, which is going to be something similar for the next game, is did they control what they can control? Because that's all that any of us can really ever do in life. They did that on tonight. They got to do that on tomorrow night in terms of going in there, only controlling what you can. Mistakes are made, but you have to have a very short-term memory in terms of those mistakes and not letting it or allowing it to play into your mind and lead over or bleed over into the next play. Seizing and taking advantage of every opportunity that's laid out there in front of you. Not reading the name on the front of the jersey is another big piece of tomorrow's approach for the game. And I just think it is a little bit of minimal margin for error. You got to hit your free throws. Those are the simple things. Prevent from turning the ball over, doing those little things, simple things, and just be confident. And you have a reason now to be confident. I think they were confident in the game on tonight because they knew that they should have won the previous two games. They have even more confidence on tomorrow because they just beat a team who's one of the better teams in the NBA. So I know that sounds like a lot of things, but it is things that is well within their control, and it just comes naturally. When you do those things, the sky's the limit because that is ultimately what makes you develop and grow and establish, I guess, some of that team chemistry and camaraderie.
And the thing about with the Lakers, they're coming off a loss to the Golden State Warriors in the battle of the play-in tournament. That they are currently sitting in with those two teams, and that's just so weird just to see teams like that, like the Warriors and the Lakers at the bottom of the Western Conference. I was just having a conversation with my wife earlier. I was just like, man, the Oklahoma City Thunder is the number one team in the Western Conference. You know, and like I said, the Clippers are the number 4 team. The Minnesota Timberwolves are the number 3 team in the Western Conference. So I just say all that to say that like times are starting to change in the league, and when you think about what the Lakers are trying to do and what LeBron is trying to do, which is try to figure out a way to squeeze another championship out of this roster. It's going to be they're going to be coming in trying to get a win because they just played a couple of days ago, so they are resting, you know. So and we know this is the second half of back-to-back for the Hawks. So LeBron's coming off a 40-point game. So D'Angelo Russell has been on fire as of late. So there are some different type of, we talk about those wings, the wing defenders. I think Deandre Hunter, guys like Dejounte Murray, you know, Jalen Johnson. Those guys are going to have probably the game of their lives from a defensive standpoint, and it's going to have to start on the defensive side of the ball once again.
I'll be honest with you, Jarvis. Like, I think that you think that they're gonna win them. I think I'm gonna rock with the Hawks tomorrow on a win. I know that that's a stretch.
Oh,
I know that that's tight, but I'm a little extra confident. Maybe I'm feeling good, and I'm gonna sleep good tonight.
All right.
I promise you, I haven't had any beverages.
You had any adult beverages tonight at all?
No adult beverages for me tonight. But I think I'm gonna take them. I think I'm gonna take the Hawks on tomorrow. You gonna join me with that, Jarvis? I know we got to get up out of here, but I was just wondering if I can, you know, influence you into coming over on this side of the tracks with me. Can't do it.
No, man. This team just lost to the Utah Jazz. Now,
but this team just beat the LA Clippers too.
I understand that, Tate, but you know, you're our resident hoops expert. You know, like I'm in your world right now. I can't jump out there like that.
Okay.
I can't do it. I can't jump out there like that.
I respect
but
it.
If you're telling me that I'm gonna see all 4 guys with their arms stretched out, you know, getting ready to trap because that's what the coach told us to do. You know, and they do it for 4 quarters.
Yeah,
I might just jump out there, but I can't. You can't guarantee me that they're gonna do that again in back-to-back games.
I got you.
Oh man, with LeBron coming off an L, it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be real tight.
It's gonna be tight.
We appreciate you for hanging tight with us right here on the Locked On Hawks podcast. We are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And if you haven't downloaded our podcast, or if you have downloaded our podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. And make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more Hawks conversation, more Hawks talk, more Hawks analysis, make sure you check out our guy, Brad Rowland. He is the host of the Locked On Hawks postcast. We will see you tomorrow, later on tonight, after the Hawks, right here on the Locked On Hawks postcast. We'll see you there.